the information session for open access. My name is Osayaman Bartholomew, and I serve as Chief Program Officer of Project REAP. Before we get started, I just want to send a huge thank you to the Real Estate Executive Council for hosting our session today. Thank you, Ken McIntyre, CEO of Reese, for hosting this session today. And also a thank you to my colleague, Loretta Ewu at Project REAP. Thank you to Lamont Blackstone, board chairman of Project REAP, and also the open access team, who you will hear from later on, Gina Nisbeth, Jeff Monge, and Claudia Diaz. It's been a pleasure working with all of you in putting this initiative together. So let's get started. What is Project REAP? Most of you on here, I see a lot of familiar names, but for those that are not familiar with Project REAP, for the past 22 years, REAP, the Real Estate Associate Program, has been widely recognized as the nation's most successful diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative in commercial real estate. It has been our goal for the past 22 years, and it's still now, to bridge the gap between talent and opportunity. REAP works through education, networking, mentorships, and partnerships. This winter, we are happy to support the launch of Open Access, an initiative to increase diverse representation in community development finance. The New Markets Tax Credit Program within Community Development Finance is dedicated to improving under-resourced and underrepresented communities nationwide, many of which are the Black and Latinx areas that are disproportionately affected by the pandemic. This industry is underrepresented by Black and Latinx professionals on all levels. And because of this talent deficit, it often deprives organizations of the cultural affinities needed to best understand and relate to the populations that they serve. It is the goal of open access to prepare talented professionals for career opportunities in this industry. And with the support of advocates in the new market tax credits industry, this training and fellowship initiative is now a reality. Our open access fellows will benefit from paid fellowships with industry leaders, training, networking, webinars, and conference attendance, which is sponsored by Novogradac and Company. All of our fellows will be prepared for community development careers in accounting, legal, finance, consultancy, development, as well as other related areas. So we are looking for professionals who want to become agents of change, who want to become agents of restoration, and especially empowerment in communities of color. So I thank you so much for joining us today. You will hear from some of our sponsors and you will hear from our panelists today. A quick thank you to our sponsors: Trailblazer, PNC, Citi, US Bancorp, Chase, Greenline Ventures, Novogradac and Company, as well as Advantage Capital, NCCIC, and Monge Capital. So before we go to our panelists, you will see a brief video presentation, and then you will hear from the co-founders of Open Access, Gina Nisbeth and Jeff Monge. Thank you.
My name is Brianna Jayalon. I was born and raised in San Diego, California, and I graduated from UC Berkeley in December of 2019. I wanted to go into community development because people's well-being matters to me. After graduating, I wanted to look for a role where I could learn and grow as an individual while simultaneously making a positive impact on the world, and community development checked all my boxes. I think that everyone deserves the right to live a quality life, and the work that people are doing in this space, whether it be the development of a healthcare center or bringing a grocery store to a food desert, are aiding in just that, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Community development industry could have serious and lasting impacts on people's overall standard of living by helping everyone have access to basic needs like education, food, housing, and healthcare. The potential for this industry are endless.
Hi, my name is Chabeli Casas. I'm currently a Miami resident and I graduated from the University of North Florida with an MBA and a Master of Arts in International Management. After completing my MBA, I struggled to find a role that empowered people on a personal level. Joining Monge Capital gave me the opportunity to explore the various facets of community development. Throughout this experience and the impacts of COVID 19, I have seen the need for financial institutions and governments to collaborate in order to provide educational and health resources to underserved areas such as those in Miami and Puerto Rico. Going forward, I intend to continue learning about the use of real estate developments to further build prosperity one community at a time.
Hi, my name is Jeff Monge. I'm Managing Director of Monge Capital and a co-founder of Open Access. This summer, Brianne and Chabeli were two of four project managers we hired as part of what we call our Open Access pre-launch. Another one of our project managers, Claudia Diaz, who you hear from later, was an integral part of helping us design and launch Open Access. Access to professional opportunities is a linchpin for most successful careers. Lack of access is one of the greatest barriers and has helped create underrepresentation of professionals of color in several industries, especially in finance. This is even true with community development finance industry, which helps drive the economic future of our communities, but does not reflect the very diversity of the communities that they serve. With the support of the New Market Tax Credit industry and Project REAP, we hope to create open access to diverse professional talent to learn more about our community development finance industry and have the ability to do good and do well through these fellowships. In return, participating firms will be exposed to professional talent with unique experiences of representing the communities they serve, as well as the passion to be part of helping eradicate historical inequities in the communities they are from through finance. I'm born and raised in the Bronx. My professional success has been driven in part by my passion to help my community and my unique understanding of low-income communities as a resident. But more so, along the way, it was access that allowed me the chance for success. With that, I would like to introduce Gina Nisbeth, who I've been working with over the last several months, along with Claudia, and also a co-founder of Open Access, to present this initiative.
Thank you, Jeff. It's my pleasure to speak to you guys today. I just want to give a little bit of background as to sort of how we came to this initiative and why we felt it was so important. I will tell you that over my 24-year career, 10 of those years I spent as a trader. And as a trader, I was the only woman that was a Black woman in our organization. That was the case when I started, and that was the case when I finished. And when I transitioned into the community development space, I really thought that the community, that there'd be greater representation of people in color in the community development industry. In fact, that was true. There was greater representation. However, it really was nowhere near what we would have expected to find based on the communities that we work and do our work in. And so for several years, Jeff and I have been sort of bantering around why that was the case and how we could make it better. But it wasn't until about a year ago that we really sat down and put pen to paper and really thought about how we could create something as opposed to complaining about it. How can we solve this problem? And so was born Project Open Access. So I first also, before I talk about on a high level what the fellowship program is and how it's going to work, I want to thank, quite frankly, all the various people who, some of which are on the call today and many of which are not, but who've helped us to organize and move this initiative forward. Importantly, absolutely need to thank Project REAP for everything that they've done. All of our sponsors that you saw at the first slide of this presentation, and you'll see them at the end of the presentation. We want to thank all of those folks. And of course, my co-founder, Jeff Monge, I'd like to thank him as well. So with that, I'd like to, if someone could move the slide forward. Great. So on a high level, what's the program and what does it do? Jeff and I thought a lot about sort of our ultimate goal is to increase the representation of Blacks and Latinx professionals at all level of our industry. We happen to work in a segment of the industry called new market tax credits. And so for that reason, many of the people on the call today and many of the people who are helping us to move this forward are in the new markets industry. However, it's a segment of the overall community development finance industry. Why Black and Latinx? Because quite frankly, they represent the greatest percentage of individuals in the low-income areas that we're working in, and yet we don't have the proper representation in our industry. We think that when we have a better representation, the projects we complete, the work we do, the impacts we create, and the dollars we provide will be more equitable as well. And so our method for doing this, we've put together this program that includes online training provided by the accounting firm Novogradac for up to 10 hours of training, webinars, as well as conference attendance at their conferences, which are industry standard, gold standard. We've also been able to source from many of our friends and colleagues paid fellowship opportunities. This is a 4-month opportunity for individuals, candidates to really get to understand the industry and if they have an interest in working in it going forward. There are networking opportunities as well as access to permanent job placement opportunities. And for us, success will be measured in this way. It will be individuals will complete the certificate of training by Novogradac for up to those 10 hours. They will complete 160 hours of paid internship opportunities. And certainly any confirmed placements, we will be looking for the opportunity to deliver on what we're trying to do, which is to make our workplace look more like us. And so with that, I'd like to hand it over to our next speaker. Shamika Gladney is a managing director at Enterprise Community Investments. Shamika, are you on? So actually, oh, Shamika's back.
Yeah, she's connecting right now.
Super.
Mika, can you unmute?
If Shamika is not available and we want to just move the slide forward, I can start her presentation and then maybe she can join when she's available to do so. Okay, so again, I mentioned that within the community development space generally, many of us work specifically in the area called new market tax credit. And new markets are looking for investments that the investment criteria to make an investment in new markets deals is that the project must be located in a low-income qualified census tract. With our business, and I should say on a high level so people understand, new markets allows us to invest and lend into projects that create economic benefit as well as community benefits in low-income communities and for low-income residents of those communities. And so the projects that we create, they include things like charter schools and healthcare facilities, performance centers even. We're looking to create jobs and we are looking to improve the communities. Again, very importantly, the investments that we make must be in qualified census tracts. So the poverty rate has to be greater than 30%. The median family income has to be less than 60% of the statewide median family income. And the unemployment rate needs to be greater than 1.5, the national average. So again, we're looking for projects that are a wide range. Quite frankly, for new markets tax credits, they can finance pretty much anything except for projects that are specifically designated for housing, and except for a very few number of what we call sin businesses, but these might be things like a gambling facility or a facility that its primary purpose is to sell alcohol and things like that. But it's a very flexible financing tool that we can use to provide economic benefit and community benefit. And so why don't we go to the next slide? Okay, So these are some examples, and unfortunately, if Shamika's not able to speak, I have to speak on behalf of her projects, but they absolutely represent the type of work that we do generally. And I'm
Hi,
sure.
Gina, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can, Shamika.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened, but I can try to take over from here.
Perfect
Thanks
timing.
for starting off the presentation.
No worries.
So I'll talk quickly about these projects. So I just wanted to give you guys a couple of examples of what are the types of projects that new market tax credits are used for. So I tried to find two sort of different examples to really speak to the range of different types of projects that we finance with this program. So the first one is a community facility in Washington, D.C. This is in a low-income neighborhood, majority minority neighborhood, known as East of the River. And for folks who have lived in cities that are differentiated by either railroad tracks or rivers or things like that, you know that one side tends to be doing better than the other side. This community facility had a range of nonprofit users all housed together. So there is a charter school, a school for boys. There's actually a school for girls in the phase 1 part of the project, a health clinic for children, a black box theater for the arts. There's also a farmer, an urban farm related to the project, and a farmer's market that they have. And some other nonprofits also that serve the community. So this was a type of project that it's not able to qualify for a lot of traditional capital because the users will be nonprofits. They can't afford to pay high rents because they'd rather use that money for the services that they're providing to their constituents. So the new market tax credit program here was able to provide subsidies so that the project could attract and retain these nonprofits in spaces that they could afford, and also put them in a location where they're in close proximity to the people that they serve. You can go to the next slide. So this is a project in Queens, New York. This is sort of a different kind of project, one that would be more traditionally financed, but still has the kind of gap that is that creates an opportunity for new market tax credits. So as those of you who are in the REAP program who are in New York know, a lot of industrial buildings in New York, especially in Brooklyn and now Queens, are being converted into apartments, which creates a situation where people who work with their hands and do work that requires a lot of space are often priced out of the places where they would traditionally be able to do their crafts in close proximity to the neighborhoods in which they live. So New York City had an initiative to try to retain some of those industrial spaces in the city. So they partnered with this nonprofit, and this nonprofit competes with, frankly, residential developers to purchase this space. But residential developers can pay a higher dollar amount because they're going to turn these spaces into luxury apartments. This developer is a nonprofit, and in order for them to compete, they have to be able to finance the project in such a way where they can afford to, compete for a market rate acquisition price, then renovate the property, and still be able to provide spaces that are usually specific to certain types of tenants at a rent that's affordable to those tenants. So this isn't so much a community facility like the first project was, but it is a project that's helping to retain jobs in New York City for folks of, you don't have to have a college degree or a graduate degree to have this type of job. And it also helps you to retain those small businesses in the city that are some of the users of these spaces. You can go to the next slide. So now that you have a sense of the wide range of different types of projects that new market tax credits can finance, I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of who are the different players in this industry, and what are the kinds of functions that one uses in this industry. And I think you'll find that it's a lot of the same types of functions that you would find in non-tax credit real estate. The roles might be a little bit different. We have investors. Then we have CDEs, they're organizations like the one I'm at, which is Enterprise, which is an affordable housing syndicator, but also does a wide range of other community development type work. The project sponsors, the developers, are nonprofits who are trying to create these projects in the built environment. And then there's consultants and lawyers and accountants that help get the deals closed. As far as the functions are concerned, there's business development, which is the same type of business development you'll see at traditional banks, either on the lending side or on the investing side when it comes to real estate investing. Underwriting, also very similar to what you'd see in sort of traditional real estate. Impact analysis, which is something that's probably more unique to new markets and other tax credit work than it is to traditional real estate. But I will say impact analysis is the kind of work that lots of other organizations are really interested in. Folks who have a skill set for not only being able to underwrite the economics of a deal, but also to think about how that deal is going to impact the community and how they can get sort of double and triple bottom line returns for some of their investments. And then there's legal, closing, and due diligence functions, asset management, and compliance. So both monitoring the performance of the asset itself and also monitoring the compliance with all the requirements of the New Market Tax Credit Program. I think that's my last slide. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Claudia Diaz, and I'm so excited to introduce a very senior panel of Black and Latinx leadership. And they're all going to be sharing their experience with the community and economic development industry today. So we'll go ahead and get started with some brief introductions. How about we do name, title, and as the icebreaker question, we'll say what drew you to work in the community development industry? And we'll start with Jose.
Let me unmute first. Well, I guess good afternoon, good evening to everyone. As Claudia indicated, my name is Jose Villalobos. I'm a Senior Vice President with Telacu. And just briefly, Telacu is a nonprofit community development corporation based in East Los Angeles, formed back in 1968 in response really to the civil disturbances that were taking place across the country in Los Angeles specifically, as well as the outmigration of the major employers in East Los Angeles. And for me, I got involved in the field, or interested in the field, I think when it was still very much in its early nascent stage, if you will. Kind of coming out of the War on Poverty programs. I went to UCLA undergrad with a degree in economics, a lot of accounting, and then my MBA in finance. And really through my, I think, association with different groups and friends that were involved in different things in low-income communities, how could I really kind of take advantage or use what my degrees to be able to help underserved communities? And lo and behold, I was able to find employment with Telacu, and many years, decades later, here I am.
Aisha?
Hi, good evening. Can you all see me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening. My name is Aisha Benson. I'm the Executive Vice President of Trufund Financial Services, Inc. We are a national nonprofit community development financial institution that's headquartered in New York. We serve a good part of the Southeast region, New York and New Jersey, by providing loans and business advisory services to small businesses and nonprofit organizations. Back in 2002, we formed a community development entity to be our subsidiary organization that could finance larger economic development projects in highly distressed communities. And so I oversee that program, and as well as all of our lending activities in our footprint states. And so what brought me into this industry was really, I started right out of college and participated in a program that some of you may know, Inroads, which is designed to connect students of color with corporate internships, also providing leadership development and other forms of education. So I wound up working for, at that time it was Chemical Bank. And so like what, 5-6 mergers later, it's the JP Morgan Chase that you all know. I survived 5 of those mergers. But I went through the credit training program and was never really interested in just working on large credits for wealthy, very healthy organizations. I wanted to support the businesses that were in low-income communities like the one that I grew up in. And so I found an opportunity in the community development group within Chase to sort of marry my passion and my commitment to my community along with the skills that I developed as a credit analyst. And so I've been doing community development work since then.
Thank you, Aisha. Ashley?
Good afternoon. I'm Ashley Wicks, and I am an attorney with Butler Snow. Butler Snow is a full-service law firm that is headquartered in Ridgeland, Mississippi, but really Jackson, Mississippi. We're throughout the basically southeast, up the eastern seaboard, kind of. I am a new market tax credit lawyer. And what drew me to community development as a tax lawyer, you know, well, you may not know, but a lot of times it's perceived that we do a lot of work with the IRS. The things I like about community development is it's a fun way, because it's like a bunch of puzzle pieces. It's a fun way to help your community, and it's tax-based because the incentives are tax-based. And it's you get the opportunity to create something and help people and help create jobs and do something that's for the betterment of your community.
Thank you for sharing, Ashley. Kermit?
Was there another question to that?
Oh, no, we're just doing quick introductions. Kermit, you seem like you're froze, so we'll go ahead and skip over you for now and circle back to you. Sandra?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, no, I was waiting for you to tell me to speak.
Oh, yeah, so we're doing quick introductions. Your name, your title, and what drew you into the community development industry.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and very much pleasure to be on this panel with a bunch of folks that I consider to be very close personal friends, as well as coworkers, very respected people. My name is Kermit Billups. I'm Executive Vice President and co-founder of Greenline Community Ventures. We are based in Colorado, Denver. I am in both Baltimore and Orlando. We also have an office in Washington, D.C. Greenline is a minority owned and controlled CDE. We've received 8 allocations across all the rounds, totaling about $547 million. And we finance pretty much exclusively operating businesses, specifically small businesses. Most of our capital today goes in increments of under $2.5 million to small businesses to support the job growth that comes from small businesses, and also because we feel that gets us deeper into the communities, especially African-American and Latinx communities that we are trying to reach. I think the question was why or how did I get into—
What drew you into the industry?
What drew me into the industry? Yeah, and that's a long discussion, but the short answer is one conversation with a cousin who was a social worker. And I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, in the district, some of you may know, the late, well, originally, the late Elijah Cummings represented our district, but when I was younger, Perrin Mitchell, the first Black Congressional Black Caucus leader. It's always been a district with a very high degree of social consciousness. Thurgood Marshall was from our district. The NAACP was actually founded in our district, but my cousin, who was a social worker, as I was explaining that I wanted to do what she was doing, she let me talk for about 20 minutes and then said, no, you need to think about the finance element of trying to help communities. And she went on to talk to me about that. And that conversation just stuck with me through the rest of college and into grad school. And that really is how I got into various forms of community development finance. It was really one conversation with one relative that put me on a path of trying to understand how to impact the communities that I was familiar with and that I wanted to help.
Thanks for sharing. And Sandra now?
I can't hear you, Christine.
No worries. So the question was your name, your title, and what drew you into the industry?
So first of all, I called you Christine, so I don't know where that came from, but hello, everyone. My name is Sandra Moore. Everyone calls me Sandy Moore, and I am Managing Director and Chief Impact Officer at Advantage Capital. So aside from calling Claudia somebody else's name, let me tell you all that right now that I'm in a noisy place, and I apologize for that. And I may have to leave a little bit early. I'm one of those people who didn't follow the CDC orders, and I had to travel for business today, and I may have to dash out to an airport. But let me answer the question quickly, and it has to be quick because all this gray hair is real, and I've been at this a very long time. I am a lawyer by training and undergraduate degree in urban planning. So way back then, I thought that I really wanted to see communities like where I lived planned and developed in a different way. I took the route of the law, and I spent a good 15 years in the law before I left the law, and then went into on the pathway that led me to Advantage Capital. Advantage Capital is a venture capital firm, believe it or not. We are also a CDE, a community development entity, and a frequent and long-standing awardee of new market tax credits, and we do investing in our new market tax credit portfolio, and we have other portfolios, but in our new market tax credit portfolio, like Kermit, we invest in operating businesses, small businesses, for the purpose of creating sustainable economic vitality in distressed communities, creating jobs with opportunities onward and upward. I was drawn to this side of the field after many years in the not-for-profit sector, some years in the government sector, some additional years in the private sector on the housing development side. And I came to one conclusion, that there would never be enough public capital to do the things that I cared about, to change the things that I care about in the community. So I crossed the street, went to the private investment side, and I wear them out.
Thank you. And next we have Kyle.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Walton. I am a president of Classic Lake Consulting. I think a better title is an advocate for opportunity. Classic Lake specializes in bringing capital to projects and communities that have a direct and demonstrable impact on communities of color. Really, I'm a deal junkie. So you'll find Classic Lake anywhere around the nation where Black and Brown projects or projects that are impacting Black and Brown communities are moving the needle. We do a lot of work in education, public-private partnerships, healthcare. You'll find that we are not industry dependent, but we are really more culture-based and looking at how do we move the needle, similar to Sandy, how do we really move the needle looking at the private sector capital. I was brought to the market really because I got fatigued with hearing folks outside of my community telling me what needed to happen in my community. And I was doing development work and struggling to figure out how to bring capital to my projects. I was a little audacious and reached out to a private equity fund development and management firm. And really quickly they told me, you're a little bit audacious coming out of grad school trying to do this, but why don't you come join us and learn about this thing called new markets? And 13 years later, I've spent some time in a bank, I've spent some time with some equity funds, and about 5-6 years ago, I launched Classic Lake, really with the goal of connecting capital to communities of color and the projects that I really am passionate about.
So we got to hear a bit of everyone's introductions, what they do, and what drew them into the industry. This first question is for Ashley and Kyle. How did you break into the industry? So basically, what is the formula so I can replicate it?
Ashley, you want to go first?
That's fine. I actually, the first deal that I had the opportunity to work on was for my alma mater, the Jackson State University. It was a new market tax credit deal in Mississippi. So that's where I basically cut my teeth. We served as local counsel and support for tax counsel. And after working on our first one and seeing kind of how the sausage was made, we had the opportunity to work on others. And then it's kind of like after you get your foot, after you start working on the deal, you understand the structure, you begin to understand the players in the industry and how it works together. That leads to other deals. And I've had the opportunity to work on deals throughout the United States. And it's kind of cool because I love all of my deals, but one of my favorite deals was with another HBCU, and having a diverse lawyer who fully understands what it means to be an HBCU and the challenges that African-American communities face, especially when getting appraisals and underwriting challenges and how the system works. It made I wouldn't say it made a complicated or a difficult deal easier, but it made sure that that deal got done. Kyle?
Well, I think I ended up in the space really because I went to Morehouse College, and at Morehouse, they teach you that the community collectively can do big things. And so, again, I was a little bit audacious with how I thought capital should be deployed and who I thought should be deploying that capital. And I happened to do a little research and find a woman who was building private equity funds and deploying capitals in the communities I was passionate about. I finished my grad school work at Washington University right before Katrina happened, or the year that Katrina happened. And it happened to be that my former employer was really looking for someone who was a little bit bullheaded and would be very critical of the projects that were seeking capital post-Katrina. If you look back at what happened along the Gulf after Katrina, personal opinion, there was a lot of capital going to projects that really wasn't impacting the communities that looked like me, simply because they were in, not to dismiss the devastation of Katrina, but you saw a lot of opportunistic investment. And I happened to align with a woman who was also passionate about impact and the double and the triple bottom line metrics. And she was one of the first people who really didn't look at my ambition for community impact aligning with capital returns as something awkward and unachievable. She saw an alignment of strong returns, reduced risk when you're investing in a way that is cognizant of the community in which you're serving. So, Katrina was really a blessing for me. I was able to spend really about 2 years running around Mississippi. It's actually how I met Miss Ashley Wicks. But, I spent 2 years of my life really running around New Orleans and running around Mississippi looking for the projects that were the blackest, the brownest, and the most impactful. And, 13 years later, I'm doing the same thing.
And Kyle's new baby represents Jackson State. She has Jackson State paraphernalia already.
Wow, that HBCU love there. I love that. Okay. The next question is for Aisha and Jose. Would you say you were mentored or sponsored in your career? Could you share your experience there?
Aisha, if you want, you can go ahead.
Sure, thanks. So I already mentioned my relationship with Inroads that's me being sponsored to get into the industry. My internship was for 3 summers with Chase. And my 3rd summer, I stumbled into the community development group, and that really changed my life. And while I was there, I met my mentor, and really, to be honest, that is the only formal mentor that I've had throughout my entire career. I have at many points in my career recognized that I really needed a mentor, and really struggled to find women of color that's in this space. As you start getting into specialized economic development programs, tax credits, it's difficult to find a mentor. I have an informal one in Ms. Gina Nisbeth. While we've never formalized it, I definitely see her as a mentor. And I glean whatever I can from all of the professionals that are represented here and others that are not, because I recognize the importance of having a relationship with people who can say, I've been there and I've done that. Here's a road that you can travel. Here's something you can look into. Here's a person I can connect you to, because a mentor is very important to have a connector, and also someone who inspires sort of self-reliance within you, and a sense of empowerment, so that you just keep going for that next level after that next level. And so I think, I encourage everyone who is on here today, if you don't have a mentor, to find one, to try to make it formal, and really think about how you can not only receive from that person, but what can you pour in, because it really is a two-way relationship, and that's when you get the most out of it. I was afraid in the early part of my career to call on people, because I thought that that professionals were too busy and no one would want to take the time from me. And so I can say now, though I am very busy, I really welcome those that are coming up that would like guidance and support and information. And so I look aggressively to do that, because I recognize how much further along I think I'd be if I had had some formal mentorships.
Thank you for that heartfelt advice.
And for me, as I indicated earlier, coming straight out of business school, I had the opportunity to work for Telacu. And Telacu at that point was still a relatively young organization, trying to be all things to everyone in the community, and really just kind of putting together their strategic plan on focusing on community economic development. So there were a lot of young, very young people working with the organization, both people just recently from college, as well as from the community. And really, so we all had the opportunity to really kind of work together closely, and really kind of learning as we went along, because again, the kind of things we were doing back then were really kind of at the forefront, or it wasn't done. It was always, you would always hear, no, you can't do that. That's not what community-based organizations do. So we would always have to, figure out how to overcome those hurdles and barriers that were put in front of us. And so little by little, over time, as we built the capacity of the organization, really kind of focused on community economic development and using public policy to take advantage of the initiatives and legislation to leverage public and private dollars. And we were also part of the coalition that worked with the then Clinton administration on helping design and get the new markets legislation passed, and then roll it out with the CD5 fund. So I've had the opportunity to learn from a few key people in the organization early on, But at the same time, we were, I guess, kind of trailblazers, trying to set the path, hopefully to be able to support others and other organizations as they would follow suit. But yes, over the years, our key for Telacu is, what can we do not only to help our community, but how can we help other organizations and individuals, build their capacity and do things that they need to get done in the communities that they're serving.
Thank you, Jose. Our next question is for Kermit. You're an executive vice president. What would you say is the most challenging aspects of being a leader in the industry? And you're on mute, Kermit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to get you off of mute. Thanks. And thanks, Claudia. That's another question that really has a lot of layers to it. Greenline is actually a spinoff. We started in new markets under GMAC, under an old entity of GMAC, ultimately under GM. So my background was investment banking in a company that was under GMAC. We were able to start this group under GMAC and ultimately spin off our business unit to form Greenline, which is another long story. But the first challenge was kind of moving within a large company, but the bigger challenge that I probably would identify, and I look to my friend Jose because I've learned a lot from watching him and how he operates, but I had to learn how to allow space to hear other points of view. As I said earlier, I grew up in Baltimore in a region with a very strong sense of social consciousness, and those are the people that I grew up with that kind of drilled that into me. But as I got older, I've learned how to make space, how to try to work with lots of different kind of people, how to build coalitions, and that's a more effective way when it comes to community development, understanding that my thinking, my way is not the only. This is a very diverse industry, one of the most diverse industries that I've ever been in. And there are lots of good ideas that, quite frankly, 30 years ago, I would not have thought were good ideas. But having the sense to listen, and so there's a bit of a push and pull there, being able to do that, but also being able to stand up for the things you see that need to be done. And industries like this, especially when they start out, they tend to move towards what we sometimes call the lowest hanging fruit, the easier deals to do, the easier deals from a compliance perspective. But lots of us on this panel want to push into some of the harder deals. And so to do that, you kind of have to stick your head out of the box. So while you're trying to work with people, build coalitions, you also have to know when to pick your spots, to push against the grain, and to try to push the ball maybe in another direction. So again, this is a complicated thing. There's just a lot of pushing and pulling, but at the end of the day, I hope out of this, what we get is essentially, and this is what we were able to do at GMAC, is show that, in fact, the perception that these low-income communities were the problem areas for lending actually is not the case. And we had that because of new markets, we had data. That's the first time many big financial institutions cut data geographically by census tracts. And so we were able to show that the problem was the speculative malls and all the investment that was going into suburban areas and not the investment in low-income areas. So the way to really get more investment in low-income areas is to help these credit committees have data that can prove the case that there is economic value in spots where traditionally, in places that have been overlooked and not well understood. Having the data to do that is kind of, as a leader, what you have to do. So I'll probably leave it at that, but again, a very complicated question with a lot of different aspects to be answered. But for people like Jose that have worked successfully, I learned a lot about coalition building just watching Jose work and learning about Telacu.
Thank you, Kermit, for sharing that. Our last question, and it's a quick response for everyone. what advice would you have for others who want to set off in a similar direction? So if, you know, you're for some advice for some folks who are mid-career, early in their career, what advice would you have for them who want to set off in a similar direction as you?
You better be passionate about it.
Jose, Ashley, Aisha?
I would say that if the opportunity presents itself, be willing to take on things that are that seem a little different or outside of what's the norm. Think it through. Like it was said earlier, there are a lot of people in this industry. You can run things by them to get a different perspective. But it takes a little bit of creativity, and once you have a full understanding of how it works or how the deals work, and you can think through what you could do to make it work for your client, if it's possible to make it work for your client. So be creative, and I think that's what Kyle was saying. It takes a certain passion, persistence, and diligence to make sure you see the deals through to the end.
And I would say, you know, given the many years I've been in the industry, that community development really has grown significantly. There are so many more opportunities nowadays for individuals who are interested in, you know, making a difference, wanting to get involved, to be able to reach out to any number of organizations or individuals. I think I can safely say that we all want to be able to help and support those who want to get involved in the field. I mean, just with Telacu, we do have an education foundation because we understand that you know, access to opportunity isn't necessarily equal across for everyone. So we try to create those opportunities for individuals to be able to pursue what their fields of interest. But I can tell you, if you reach out to me or anyone probably on this panel, we're more than happy to spend some time with you and more on what we've done, how we've done it, where you may be able to go to get additional direction or support. So definitely, if there's interest, there's much more opportunity in organizations across the country, whether they're CDFIs, CDEs, community development corporations, community action agencies, CHOTOs, I mean, you name it. It's a very diverse field in terms of nowadays for community economic development.
Kermit, Aisha, what advice would you have for folks?
I think the only, oh, sorry, Kermit, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Aisha.
I think the only thing that I would add is to not think so linearly or in a box. As Shamika shared in her slide earlier, there are a number of ways to get in here. So you get in where you fit in. There's so many skills and talents that are needed to make this work, right? And to help our communities to thrive. And so, you know, for example, we have someone that works on our team that does research and that loves to work with our clients and understand their story and what kind of impact, you know, the financing has made for them, and then puts that together and maps it all out and puts together these really great presentations, right? So that doesn't require you know, financial analysis skills. It doesn't, you know, require that you be an expert on tax credits. And so I would just say, right now, this is a time to learn and to explore and to see where your skills and talents could lend to the greater work that we're doing.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And just without staying on the topic too long, with a few chip shots. One, talk to people in the industry to get a feel for when you're younger, you have to learn how to skate to where the puck's going to be, not where it is. And you have to understand growth when you're looking at any industry. With us, I can go in and I can say we should finance women and minority-owned small businesses because it's a good thing to do, and that's true. I can also say we should do that because what's the fastest growing segment of the small business market? Women and minority-owned businesses. So don't you want to be in the growth area, the fastest growing area of the market? Understand what's good, what's growing. Same thing with respect to deal size. What's the underbanked segment of the capital stack? And without getting too deep, you can look at companies that need dollars, say 2.5 million to 10 million to 40 million and go on up, that need debt and equity. Where are the underbanked pockets? Where's the growth? And what you'll find is a lot of the growth is coming in so-called underserved areas the exact areas that we work in and in some of the smaller dollar amounts. So that's intelligence you can gather by talking to people. Look for growth, try to anticipate where the markets are going, where the growth is, the industries that are growing, and try to position yourself to take advantage of it.
All of the panelists today. Thank you for sharing your insights and taking the time to share your experience as well. By the way, today is Kermit's birthday, so happy birthday to you, Kermit. Thank you for spending your birthday with us. Next, I'm gonna pass
just turned 29.
Next, I'm gonna pass it to Osa, who's gonna speak about the application.
Happy birthday, Kermit. 29 looks really great on you.
Forget the gray hair.
So thank you again to all of the panelists for sharing your experiences and giving the advice. I think we still have a few questions there. So panelists, you are welcome to take a look at the Q&A. And if you do want to answer those questions, please feel free. Going on to requirements of the program. So applicants must have a 4-year degree, or if you are a current graduating senior with at least 1 year of work experience. The 4-year degree must be from an accredited institution. You must demonstrate an interest in community development finance. All accepted fellows must be able to commit 160 hours, and that is 28-hour days over up to 12 weeks from January 18 through April 18, 2021. I did notice in the Q&A that there were several questions about geographic locations. This is all virtual. So if you are in New York and you are assigned an organization in Alabama, you can very well participate in the program. It is all virtual. Applications will open tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time and will close on Saturday, December 5th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Accepted candidates will be announced early January by Open Access, and the training and fellowships will begin second week of January. Now, what's the fee? There is no fee. There is no fee to participate, and Open Access will do the screening and the selection of accepted fellows. One of the questions asked was how many fellows. We will be accepting up to about 20 to 22 fellows for this program. For more information about the program, you can go to www.projectreap.org. That is projectreap.org. If there are any additional questions, please contact us at reap@projectreap.org. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today. That is all what we have for today.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Gina, we got 10 more questions. Go at it.
I was gonna say, you were answering a lot of questions there.
Jeff, didn't you volunteer to do all the questions? I believe I remember that.
Look, there's 63 questions there. I'm
Doesn't matter how many there are.
and Miss Clark had me busy.
Yes. Oh man, what did I just do?
I could answer these.
Let's see if I could do this. Oh, I keep doing the same damn thing.
What'd you do, Ken?
No, I'm trying to copy. I don't know if you can copy all the questions.
Oh yeah, I was gonna recommend that if there are any questions that we want to answer offline.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'm gonna start sending email me. How many more do we have here? I'll just do that. I'll just go across.
There's only 3 more left.
I think most of the people are leaving.
Yeah, I think they're left anyway.
Let's see, what am I
But
looking?
once we end the session, you should be receiving a copy of the chat and I believe the Q&A as well.
I think we got all of them that's here anyway.
Ignatius, if you're still there.